Hey, welcome to Chatting with Chops, or welcome back. Today we're going to try and see if we can make some raisin bread. We've done regular bread on this channel before, but we're going to try and make raisin bread. And of course, we're going to make a twist and see if we can make it vegan. So let's get started. Whenever you're going to make bread, you always want to get your yeast ready. So I have my thermometer and I'm checking my water. It needs to be between 105 and 110, and I'm looking at about 108 right now, and it's going to cool off as I continue to work with it. So what I want to do, let me move that, is I'm going to put my 1 1/4 cup warm water in the bowl. And then I'm going to just take one of the regular Fleischmann active dry yeast packets. That's what I use. They're 1/4 of an ounce packets. And I'm going to pour that in there. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of sugar. This is some sugar we're going to use in a minute in the recipe, but I'm going to give it a little bit of sugar to eat while it sits here and grows. And then we'll give it about 10 minutes to do that. So we'll come back and see how it looks. So the next step we need to do is, this recipe is not currently vegan. I'm making it vegan. So it wants you to put in 2 tablespoons of honey. And I will say some vegans have different opinions on honey, but in this instance, I'm just going to use sugar to kind of incorporate everybody. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of sugar, and it's a little bit shy because I've already given the yeast some of that. Here, let me come out a little bit so you guys can see better. So I'm going to add the sugar to my yeast mixture, and then I'm going to add some butter. And of course this is vegan butter, but I'm adding, the recipe asks for 2 tablespoons of butter, but I'm adding a little bit more dry ingredients in here, like the sugar is a dry ingredient instead of the honey, which is a wet. So I want to make sure that I've kind of balanced out my wet and dry ingredients. So I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of vegan butter in here. So we've added our butter, and now we're going to add our 2 cups of flour. The recipe asks for 3, but we're going to put another in later on. But we have our 2 cups of flour we're going to drop in here. Okay, and then we're going to mix this all up. So the next step we want to do is put in the rest of our flour, which is 1 more cup of flour. Drop that in there. All right, and then we're going to put our 1 teaspoon of salt in here. And we're going to put our ample portion of cinnamon. Now, the recipe asks for 1 tablespoon, and it says you can put more. I have 2 tablespoons in here. Again, more of the reason why I put more butter in here, to try and even out the dry and the wet. Okay, and now we're going to mix that in real good. All right, and then the last thing we want to do is mix in our raisins. Okay, so we've put in 1 cup of raisins. We're going to mix that together, and then we're going to bring it down and knead it a little bit on the counter. I try and let y'all know pretty often that the majority of my recipes are ones that I'm testing out for like the first time. I will give a disclaimer. I have tried to make this recipe before, and I was not successful. So we're giving it a second try, and we're trying to make it vegan, so I'm probably asking for trouble. And you see some of my raisins haven't incorporated, but we're gonna fix that in just a minute. See if we can get all of these raisins in here. I don't want to miss any of our raisins. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just kind of like tucking them in the dough and then kneading it out. And I mean, if this recipe doesn't turn out, that's okay. I mean, we have situations all the time where you try and change a recipe, and I will say this recipe looks like it's got a few little problems with it already, but then I'm trying to make it vegan, so that might make it even more interesting. But all right, so I've got my greased bowl, and then I've got my nice dough that I've kneaded a little bit, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in my bowl, and I'm just going to let it sit here and rise for about an hour. Get those raisins to stay in there. So just kind of flip it. And if I can find it again, there's a really great video that a guy did that talked about how to cover your bread. There's 3 different ways where you can just leave it open like this to rise, or you can cover it with a cloth, or you can cover it with saran wrap. Now, I don't like to cover mine with saran wrap because sometimes my bread will rise so much that it'll touch the top, and I want it to have plenty of space to rise. So we're just going to leave him for about an hour. All right, so we're going to put him for about an hour and just let him sit here and enjoy being in a nice warm kitchen. All right, so we let our dough rest for an hour and rise and do all the wonderful things it's going to do. I will say it's a little bit cold here in Georgia today, so that may not help it much. But now I'm going to grease my baking pan that I'm going to put it in. And I'm just using just regular cooking spray. And then let's see how we look. Oh, that looks pretty. And I'm just going to punch it down like you normally would do regular bread, because that's all this is. And I'm just going to move this around a little bit. Make sure that my raisins are staying attached. And oh my gosh, this bread smells fabulous. Just going to give him a nice little wiggle around. I want the top to be really pretty. All right. Got one little spot there that's acting funny. I don't want that to be my bread. I like my bread to be pretty. All right, so we're going to drop that down in our baking sheet, and then we're going to let it sit for another hour so that it can rise up some more. Okay, so let's set that, and we're just going to let him sit and be happy. So it's been about an hour, and we let our little raisin bread sit here and rise some more. Let's see how he looks. Ooh, he's looking really good. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put him in the oven at 365 degrees for about 35 to 45 minutes. We want to give him plenty of chance to rise and be beautiful, and I will bring you back and let you see what he looks like. All right, so I cooked it for 40 minutes, and it is looking beautiful. I'm going to turn it out onto my little cooling rack and let it cool off for a little while, and then we'll make a glaze for the top. So the first thing I want to do is cut into this beautiful piece of cinnamon raisin bread that is just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to use a serrated knife, so that should make it easier to cut into it. So let's see. Oh, that's a nice crumble. Ooh, look how beautiful that is. That is just gorgeous. So that turned out really, really well. And now we're going to make us some wonderful cinnamon glaze. All right, so we're going to take a half a cup. Oh, goodness, I got y'all too tight. Let's bring you down a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to take a half a cup of regular confectionery sugar. What did I do with the milk? We're going to do our 1 tablespoon of milk. And since we're doing this vegan, I'm going to do some coconut milk. And then we're going to do half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, which I like vanilla bean paste. So we're going to do a half a teaspoon of that. And I'm going to keep my coconut milk close by because that's how you're going to basically work on the consistency of how you want your glaze. Well, and it wouldn't be me if I wasn't a messy cook and getting some of this everywhere. So you see how that's just really, really thick? That's only going to go on maybe 1 or 2 slices. I'm not going to be able to put that over the whole bread loaf. So I'm going to give that a little bit more milk. And then it works the other way too. If you get it too runny, you just add a little bit more confectionery sugar and that'll thicken it up a little bit. So that's getting there, but that's still pretty thick for me. I want it to be a nice drizzle that I can put over the raisin bread. So we're basically up to 2 tablespoons now. Another reason why I'm calling out how far we've changed the recipe, because I'm going to put in the description box what I've done, but it's always good when you go changing a recipe to write it down, because that way you'll know what consistency you were looking for. Yeah, see, I think that's much better. That gives me a much nicer drizzle that I can do on the cinnamon bread. All right, so what I want to do from here is I'm going to move my cinnamon raisin bread over to a plate so that all of this wonderful drizzle goodness will go on the plate and it won't go all over my countertop. All right, so we're doing a couple of slices with our glaze. I can show you how wonderful it looks. Because you might have some people that like their raisin bread plain, or they want to put butter on it, or honey on it, or some other condiment on it. Condiment. But I just want to show you how beautiful this glaze. Oh, that is gorgeous. Let's try it and see how it tastes. That is wonderful. Hope y'all like this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next bake. I thought y'all might like a sneak peek of what we're going to make next. My next video is going to be carrot cake sandwich cookies. So don't forget to come along and check that out. See you soon.